So we're back on day 18, expanding on what we've been discussing the last few days in the stack. Okay, so yesterday, if you recall, we um, we went through the dark stage, right, where we can't really see where we're going. We're blinded by emotion and a bunch of energy, uh, and dark energy that we dissipate, so that we can actually have a clear view of the situation as it is, right? We dissipate it through a series of questions. All right, today we're going to take the next phase of the stack, and that is the drift, right? So when you're in the dark, a lot of times when you can't see, you don't even know you're drifting, right? There's a series when you get off course, and when you're, like I said, when you're in the dark and you don't have the vision there, you lose track of the vision of where you're going and what you're doing. Oftentimes, in fact, always, there's a situation that triggers that darkness, right? There's something that takes you off guard. Somebody does something, something happens uh, that triggers you into a series of emotions, and then into a series of feelings, and into a series of desires and actions and so on. And again, the object of the stack as a whole is to not have you take action in the dark when you don't have focus uh, on the final goal, right? So, like the dark, there's a series of emotions that take place in a drift, and a lot of these are identifying factors where you can actually identify that you're in a drift, because often you don't even know that you're in a drift until you're triggered and you start experiencing a series of emotions. The first one is the story, right? That you go through. You go through a series of triggers, and you get into a story, and then you get into the feelings. And the first feeling, once again, is anger, right? So when you start feeling yourself getting angry about a situation, typically it's because you've been triggered and you've associated some feelings to that, and it shows up in anger. And ideally, you would want to catch yourself in the drift, and catch the drift with the emotion of anger, right? Because the object is actually catch some lift, and you can't actually catch some lift and redirect until you actually know that you're in a drift. So ideally, you would catch yourself in the anger emotion, and hopefully not go into the second phase or the second emotion, which is frustration. Frustration being a phase that you go through, and an emotion that you go to where you're just plain angry. And it's a step beyond that, where you don't know what's next. You don't know what to do. You've tried things. You're frustrated. You're in the dark. You can't see. I probably equate that to like actually being in the dark, in a dark situation that you're not familiar with, when you get frustrated because just a little bit of light, which cast a whole new light on the situation, and give you a lot of clarity and a vision of which way to go. So that the second one is a frustration of um, of being in that place. Third one is blame, right? We will typically, when we get frustrated, we don't actually aren't able to look inside and see where we fit in the equation, right? We place blame, right? We place it on a person, a situation. Often I start a stack with what triggered me, and generally, for me at least, it's a person, right? This person did this and threw me into this state of anger, and where I lost focus on my end result, my real, raw, relevant. And it's hard to identify what is real, what is the true emotion, the relevance, and lose focus on the result. The third and final one is shame, right? We experience a level of shame when we get to, I guess I consider this rock bottom, where we are embarrassed that we're in this place. Maybe we've made some decisions that put us in a financial situation, and we're probably embarrassed. Maybe our friends or colleagues or employees are aware of that, and we are shameful, and typically we'll get into a level of shame and guilt, and we'll get caught up in this game, and eventually we get to a point where we're fed up with that, and because we're on the bottom really at that point, we induce some level of lift. So the whole idea of the stack is to get through this, catch ourselves at a drift before we get to this point, and get the lift as early on as we can in the situation, before we actually get to the pit where we're on bottom, and damage is So, with that, our next assignment is to teach this assignment and fill out the other items at the bottom of this page, and we'll see you tomorrow. And we'll continue on with these stacks.